very beginning when Mickey came up. I lived in Long Island, and I followed the Yankees all the time, and my whole life, well, the Yankees winning. I used to celebrate in October of the 50s and 60s every single year.
The first thing I ever wanted to be was a ball player, I think. I love the game very much, and I've admired the players that I've seen all my life.
Absolutely. I wanted to be Mickey Mantle, and here I am. Here I am in the Yankee dressing room. Number 7.
When I was growing up, I started being a Yankee fan about 3, and it was only in New York. As far as I'm concerned, it was only Mickey.
Millions of American men who grew up in the 1950s and 1960s shared the same dream, to someday play baseball with Mickey Mantle and Whitey Ford, and to wear the pinstripes of the New York Yankees. Well, for 56 men, the dream became a reality at the Mickey Mantle Whitey Ford Fantasy Baseball Camp held at the New York Yankees Spring Training Center in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. From the very first moment the men entered the Yankee clubhouse, it was strictly a major league experience.
This is what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be a professional baseball player ever since I can remember. And that never worked out for me, so I had to do other things. But this is like an opportunity to really, live your fantasy, live your dreams. And this has just been great. Everything has been more than I expected it to be. To really have an idea now how life in the big leagues, really would have been and how it is. And it's just fantastic. Every time, we come into the locker room, you see your name over the locker, and it just gives you this great feeling. The first day we walked in here, I almost had tears in my eyes. I got so emotional that this was really happening.
First day I came in, I was so excited I couldn't even lace my shoes, and I'm a 54-year-old guy. I'm waiting 31 years to wear these pinstripes. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Each day started with exercises led by Nick Testa of the New York Yankees, master of conditioning. The participants were divided into 4 teams. The managers were former Yankees Hank Bauer, Jake Gibbs, Moose Skowron, and Tom Sturdivant. Each team played 2 games a day, and the action was surprisingly good.
Hey, Al, did I tell you how great that catch was yesterday? I forgot to have a conference with you yesterday. Dang. You better save that for Steinbrenner.
On Monday morning, everyone came to the park with great expectations and all the eager a 20-year-old rookie. But by Tuesday morning, the hard reality was that of being a 20-year-old mind trapped inside the battered body of a much older man.
They think they're in shape when they leave New York or Jersey or wherever they come from, and they get here and they're full of spunk, you know, the first few days, and then they start tapering off just like us old timers do.
I felt a whole lot better at the start of the week. Every muscle in my legs is killing me, but the rest of me is okay and the arm's okay.
As the week progressed, the fantasy campers made some surprisingly good plays, especially considering that most of these men hadn't played baseball for 15 years or longer.
I had to pick up my 9 hits out of 20, dropped a couple of balls, but I enjoyed the heck out of it.
It's been a real trip. Plus, I actually got to hit the ball a little bit this year. So I came down expecting to swing and miss quite a bit. I haven't seen baseball in about 17 years, but I hit the ball and Mickey making his little comments walking around. It's just like a, you know, it's just like a regular human being as opposed to being the superstar that you saw on the field or watched on TV when you were a little kid. So it's definitely a fantasy come true. You can't beat it. And you can't beat it. It's great. You know, I got my Yankee shirt, my Yankee hat, and got to see Mickey. What else could you ask for?
I hit the ball a lot better this year than I did last year. I don't know why. And the ball looks a little bit bigger this time. I don't know. Maybe my eyesight's getting better as I'm getting a little older. I don't know.
Now, for many of the fantasy campers, some of the greatest moments of the week were not spent on the playing field, but rather were in listening to baseball stories told by Ralph Howe, Hank Bauer, and Mickey Mantle.
Casey wouldn't ever let Whitey pitch in Cleveland or Boston or Detroit, right?
That's right.
And when Howe came over, he said, "You're going to be pitching in rotation," and Whitey won 25 and lost 4.
So, that was easy too, Mickey, because if Whitey was here, I'd embarrass him a little. When we had Arroyo in the bullpen, I could take Whitey out early, like the 7th inning, and you didn't worry about the rest of the game, and that kept him quite well rested. See, we didn't have the DH then.
Ralph and Hank both will probably tell you, the first year in the Yankees was 1951. These guys was on a team that won 5 straight world championships. And that's pretty hard to do.
The 61 Yankees was a tough team to beat because of the bench and the maneuverability. Once we got our pitching staff set that year, I think we changed the pitching staff in about June. We were a rough club to beat.
The other day I was in a Dallas paper. It said, one of those little things, you know, did you know? It just tells you something, you know. I don't know why in the hell they had it in there, but anyway, it said, did you know that Mickey went against Dick Raditz 66 times, and Raditz struck him out 44? So I guess he was the toughest. Every time I swung the ball, I was trying to hit it over that light tower there, you know. And I swung hard, and he kept the ball up. We met a guy the other day, though. We was up in Orlando, Ralph and Hank and myself. There's a guy up there named Walt Masterson. And this guy used to strike me out every time he faced me. He couldn't keep from laughing. He'd go, and I couldn't wait for him to get up there and hitting him. But about the time where I got to where if I could have hit him, he took a hike. You know, he's gone. But he was tough for me too.
One of my greatest thrills was in 1958 when Milwaukee had us down 3-1, and Spahn and Burdett says that we wouldn't finish 5th in the National League. There was a quote in the paper, and we didn't say nothing to one another. We just kind of woke up, but I had home runs in that World Series, and I had a chance in the 7th game to break the record. Burdett's pitching that last game in 58, and him and I used to drink together. We were friends. And he hung me a slider, and I fouled it off. And he walked halfway to home plate, and he says, "You know, Roomy, you're not going to get that one again, you know." Yeah, he did.
Stanley Fox is playing second. He catches the ball. He's going to touch Hank. Hank run right over his ass.
And he was the next hitter.
I hit a home.
He hit a home run, and we walked in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Now we get to Chicago.
Like this.
Yeah, we get to Chicago. And I'm playing right field. And the first thing I know, a full deck of playing cards come sailing out of there, you know. And then they threw one of them steel marbles at me. And the next one, I happened to look up there, and I see this full can of Schlitz coming at me. Picked it up, and I went up there, and I threw it back at the guy, and I said, "You the least you could do was open it up."
You know, most of you don't even know that. I played more games as a Yankee than anybody. I played in over 2,400 games as a Yankee. And when you play in that many games, you can't really, like, pick out one thing, you know. Let's see. Well, I was the most valuable player 3 times. That was a big thrill every time. Me and Whitey went in the Hall of Fame on the same day together. That was what you play for, you know, to get in the Hall. But I hit 18 World Series homers. Don Larson's perfect game, I made a good catch. I hardly ever made a good catch, but I made a good catch and saved his no-hitter. But you can't really pick one of those things. I think probably the first thing that came in my mind when you said that, it was in 1969. The Yankees had Mickey Mantle Day. This is the old ballpark. They had, Ralph was there. Everybody was there, you know. I think that was they retired my number. At that time, they had only retired numbers 3, 4, and 5 for Ruth and Gehrig and DiMaggio.
Just Major Leaguers, the fantasy campers had photos taken, which would appear on bubblegum cards.
1, 2, 3. Yeah! What a group. What a team. What a team.
Hey, Bill, it's okay if we send this to your wife's lawyer?
Okay. Or light you need. Right there, big smile, that's a shot. Let me get one more just to make 2, 3 big smiles right there. Get no flash.
Now, if you were to ask every camper to name his favorite baseball movie, most would pick The Natural, starring Robert Redford. In that movie, Tony Ferrara did all the pitching to Robert Redford.
He got a hold of me through the commissioner's office. They needed a technical advisor. They needed somebody to help pick out actors that looked like professional ball players. That's involved in the film. So I spent 2 days with the director and the producer to look at actors. And from that we picked the ball players that are in the film. And of course, when I got to Buffalo, I worked with all the ball players so that they would all look professional in the scenes that we did. And I did all the pitching to Redford and worked with him and worked out with him. And fortunately, Redford happens to be a very good athlete. First day I worked out with Bob, he surprised me. I didn't realize that he's a very good athlete. And after we got through working out, I had pitched to him for a while, and he was hitting the ball pretty good and hitting it to all fields and hitting it with some power. And I asked him, I said, Jesus, I said, you look pretty good. You've been working out? And he said he hadn't swung a bat in 20 years. So I said, you look pretty good right now for a guy his age and somebody that hasn't been playing baseball. And he looked very realistic, and it looked very good on film, I think.
Tony's not just another pretty face in the movies. He's been the Yankees' batting practice pitcher for more than 15 years. During the fantasy week, Tony also pitched to the fantasy campers.
I started with the Yankees in 1970. Dick Hauser, who knew me from the University of Miami. Dick Hauser went to Florida State University. Asked me if I'd be interested in pitching batting practice for the Yankees, and that's how it started in 1970. Fantasy camp, it's a pleasure for me to be at the camp. It's a pleasure for me to see all that enjoy it. I just want to be able to, and I try to pitch the ball just over the plate, throw strikes, so that every camper could get a chance to hit the ball hard, whatever, at least to hit the ball and run them out. They don't come down here and strike out. Right? They want to hit the ball. I'm not trying to strike them out, and I'm just trying to throw it at a nice speed just so they can take the nice cut and hit the ball.
No fantasy camp would be complete without Al Abrams. Al was taking part in his 21st fantasy camp. Why, you know, Al had more time in a major league uniform than a lot of professional players.
Yeah, I have lots of friends who wonder why I'm playing baseball, why I go to play baseball. But they go and play tennis on a vacation and brag about it, and others tell you that they've played 18 or 36 or 54 holes of golf every day on their vacation. Well, as long as I'm able to play baseball, I prefer to do that. So it's really not that unusual. I can still play a little bit, so that's what I want to do, and that's what I do. Rose agrees, and she's happy. She's here with me. It's a thoroughly enjoyable experience. I've never met anyone who didn't really love his week at a baseball fantasy camp.
Folks, this was a fantasy camp, and we found that even the former players have their own fantasies.
My fantasy, probably manage a team in a World Series and manage a team in an All-Star game. I think I've done everything else. I've been in an All-Star game as a coach. I've played in the big league level as a player. I've been in the World Series as a coach. I think now the only thing left would probably be the World Series and also to manage an All-Star game.
My fantasy is to get out of camp in one piece.
I wasn't a star, and you know, I wasn't a real big winner or anything like that, you know. I was a teammate of these great ball players, and then when I got asked to come to them, that was a real great fantasy for me.
My fantasy is learn how to hit a golf ball. I'm a 30 handicap, and I am lousy.
I enjoy this camp, and I think it's like the campers do. I really do.
You know, we all have fantasies, right? My fantasy would be to come back as a pitcher, right? And develop my forkball where nobody could hit it. See, you're laughing already.
The 4 teams of campers played a total of 9 games during the week, with Jake Gibbs' team finally winning the championship on Friday.
Otherwise, you're going to get the shit kicked out of you tomorrow.
Corn, paint, and beer. I can't believe you guys finished the week. Thought you'd be through by Wednesday.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Me personally or me, the team?
You, personally.
No way.
Kitty, who's that guy with you?
I don't know. They said he used to pitch.
How about that? While each team at the camp was playing 2 games a day, everyone's mind was on Saturday. That's when the campers would play against the former major leaguers. The game opened with 2 scoreless innings and some good plays. In the top of the 3rd, the campers took the lead, scoring 2 runs. In the bottom of the 3rd, the old-timers scored a run, but the campers still had the lead 2-1. Then, in the bottom of the 4th, the old-timers scored again, tying the ball game at 2-2. In the top of the 5th inning, the campers scored once more, taking a 3-2 lead. How about that, folks? But in the bottom of the 5th inning, the old-timers scored again, tying the game at 3 runs apiece.
Leadoff batter, Mickey Mantle, Senior.
Teddy, it was quite a ball game, but the game was decided in the last half of the 6th inning when the old-timers struck for 4 runs to give them a lead of 7-3, and that'd be the final score. Even though the campers lost the game, just having the experience of playing against the former Yankees was a great experience. But just imagine playing in the pinstripe uniform right alongside Mickey Mantle and Whitey Ford. How about that?
Now, when I first came down on Monday, I was real worried about, being embarrassed in front of everybody, because I hadn't played ball for like 20 years. Then I started hitting the ball, and as the week progressed, Tuesday first I started hitting the ball a little bit better, then I started hitting it a little further, then I started keeping track of my batting averages and, and all that, and now I couldn't wait to get to the ballpark, and now today's the last day, and I know that I'm really going to miss it.
The main thing is the memories that the guys are going to have when they're here at the camp, the good time that they've had, and the things that they're going to bring back home. I'm sure they're going to look at for a long time and remember that 1 week they spent in Fort Lauderdale with Mickey Mantle and Whitey Ford.
Hey, did you see some of those great plays? I think Whitey ought to be real proud just to have ball players like that at their camp. I mean, there were some great plays. And how about that hitting? There were some power hitters there at that camp. Man alive, how about that?